So today we're going to be taking a look at another 4K 144Hz 32-inch monitor. This one is the BenQ EX3210U. It's got very nice specs like HDMI 2.1, FreeSync Premium Pro, BenQ's proprietary light tuner and HDRI, which we'll talk about later, built-in speakers, and something that I've never seen a BenQ monitor have before, a built-in microphone with noise cancellation that actually works well. Now, this is one of the more pricier 4K 144Hz monitors out there, but this is also a MOBIUZ monitor, so it's not like you're just going to get a monitor with maybe some OSD features and call it a day. As I just mentioned, it has quite a bit of features, so yeah, let's just get right into it. We're going to start with the gaming stuff. This is my second 4K 144Hz monitor, the first one being the MSI PS321UR-QD, or whatever the model number is because they suck at naming monitors. And straight off the bat, I just gotta say the picture quality, the crispness of a 4K monitor, even at 32 inches, is amazing. Now personally, I like 27 inches to be kind of the monitor size cap for me, but this is what BenQ has to offer, and even at this size, the pixel density is phenomenal. There's so much visual fidelity, and the colors make it even better with its amazingly wide gamut, which is actually a little bit better than what they advertise. They advertise 98% DCI-P3 color space coverage, but Calman is reporting 100%, so, I mean, 2% is not really that big of a deal, but either way, stellar gamut coverage. So you're gonna have that natural looking, vibrant, saturated color without it looking really bad, ugly, or fake. It's really beautiful, really nice. Now, it's not really the competitive type of monitor. Like, sure, you can play Warzone, Valorant, Counter-Strike, whatever, and try to be competitive. But I mean, if that's your kind of thing, you're gonna wanna go with like 1440p 240Hz or 1080p 360Hz or even higher. And you'll do totally fine. Like, it's not like this monitor is bad. The pixel response times are very good as well. So if you're trying to play competitively, you're gonna have black frame insertion with this monitor at 120 plus hertz. Can't use it anywhere lower, but you know, does very good, very respectable, especially for this kind of thing. And when you compare it to something like the MSI 4K 144Hz monitor, the black frame insertion on this monitor is much better since there's a lot less crosstalk, which basically just means that you're going to perceive less motion blur, even though the MSI does have black frame insertion. Now at 60 Hz, they're about neck and neck, but realistically, I don't think most people are going to be worried about how clear an image is at 60 Hz because competitively, you're going to be getting couple hundred frames per second. 60 is more for like cinematic games, so really nothing noteworthy here. The BenQ also has a very good black equalizer, or light tuner as they call it, because for some reason they kind of limit you to either the black equalizer or light tuner depending on what kind of profile you set the monitor to, and they basically perform the same. So I'm just going to call them a black equalizer just because it just makes it easier for me to translate to you what I'm talking about. Either way, the black equalizer on this monitor I'd say would outperform the MSI, although the MSI has a little less fadiness to it. Like the higher you go, the MSI looks a little bit less kind of like washed out, but overall brightness is about the same, and the BenQ also has a color vibrance feature, whereas the MSI does not. So basically this is a win for the BenQ. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, it does have HDMI 2.1. Now, for your PC, like Windows, for example, you're gonna wanna use the DisplayPort 1.4 port because that's just going to be better. But when it comes to consoles like the Xbox Series X and the PS5, well, you're in luck because you'll be able to play at 144 Hz at 4K if the game supports it. I mean, I've never found a game that I've been able to play on my PS5 that supports 4K at 144 Hz. Usually it's like 4K 30, so, or 4K 60 at the most. But yeah, I mean, at least it supports 120 Hz for you console guys if you want to use it. Now, it also has built-in speakers like pretty much any other MOBIUZ monitor in the planet, and these are pretty good. Now, I'm not sure if these are better than the other ones that I've tried from their 1440p 144 Hz and their 1080p 144 Hz monitor, but I think these are actually better. I'm not entirely sure. They might be the same drivers and the same wattage for all I know, but what I can say is that these are pretty good. They don't get too overly loud, and they do have a couple different profiles if you want to adjust what kind of sound profile you want to listen to, but I just kept it at pop/live because that just delivered the best balance between mids, highs, lows, and it just didn't sound bad or distorted. Another thing that this has that is surprisingly pretty decent is the microphone. Now, it's not the best microphone in the world. As you can hear, it sounds like a typical microphone from like a laptop, like you're in a Zoom meeting, but the noise cancellation on it is really good. Take a listen. I'm going to just start smashing letters on my keyboard. You pretty much heard nothing. Now let me turn the noise cancellation off. You hear everything. I'm going to turn it back on so you can see that I'm not just lying to you. So the noise cancellation's on again. I'm not going to talk, and I'm going to talk midway through the typing. And now as I'm talking, you can hear it a little bit through the background, but not much. And now noise cancellation is off again, and you can just hear it clear as day. Pretty good noise cancellation, A+ here. Now, what's not as good is the HDRI. Now, this is something that BenQ has been trying to push for a while. It's one of their algorithmic HDMIs. But because this doesn't have any kind of real full array local dimming or really just any good backlight tech, you just can't get around the physical limitations of needing the HDR hardware to give you the good HDR experience. What is good though is the overall picture quality that this delivers. As I mentioned earlier, this has a very wide gamut coverage. We're talking like nearly 85% of the Rec 2020 color space, which in all honesty, that's pretty awesome. It even has decent color accuracy out of the box. Now, it's not the best for professional color work. You're gonna wanna get it calibrated, which you can do. It does get pretty good calibration results, but it's not the best. It's your typical Mobius thing where for some reason they just don't calibrate as good as all other monitors that I've tested. But hey, at least you can calibrate it to the under delta E of 2 that you need to do professional color work. The same thing applies for the grayscale. Sure, it's not the best out of the box, but realistically for the average person that's just buying this for gaming and basic content creation, it's perfectly fine. You can calibrate it again, but you know, that's if you really need to. And the uniformity is also good as well. Now, the larger the display you have, usually the harder it is to have good uniformity, especially around the outer edges. Now, as you can see, when it comes to the 30% grays, they're very good. But when it comes to the 100% whites, you might think that a delta E of 5 is bad. And while technically it can be, it's not terrible. And honestly, this is pretty good for a 32-inch display. Now, what's not as good is the brightness. This is a typical flaw of Mobius monitors, and this is no exception. The maximum peak brightness is 278 nits, and while that's not terrible, that's not great. It's really going to be a problem if you have a lot of direct sunlight in your room. Now, if you have blinds like I do, these, there you go, there and there, where they kind of block out most of the light, you'll be 100% fine. You'll never notice it to be an issue. But if you can't really block the light that's in your room, you're gonna have problems. It also doesn't help that the brightness drops to 197 nits when you turn black frame insertion on. So again, not terribly dark, but you're gonna wanna block out whatever sunlight is coming in your room because sunlight will definitely make it harder for you to see 200 nits. Contrast is average at 861:1. It's not great, it's not bad, just average. Viewing angles, on the other hand, are phenomenal. Doesn't matter if you're looking from the top, bottom, left, right, any angle, even up to 178 degrees, this thing basically has perfect viewing angle. No angle discoloration, high contrast effect, nothing. This is as good as it gets basically for IPS panels. Now, in terms of the OSD, as I mentioned, we have some of the microphone, speaker options, and black equalizer and stuff like that, but we do have some other things as well. For example, standard BenQ stuff like the BI+, which lets you enable or disable your automatic brightness adjust, which I love that so much. I keep saying it in every video where I encounter a monitor with an automatic brightness adjust. Every monitor should have it, at least that's what I think, because I'm too lazy to constantly adjust my brightness when I open, close, shades, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, we also have things like AMA, which is your overdrive settings, and blur reduction, which is your black frame insertion. Then you have your low blue light, which you can filter basically how much blue light is coming from the monitor. Color weakness, which is basically to adjust how much power you want a particular red or green color to have for the colorblind. Those audio modes that I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the speaker, again, keep it at pop/live. That I think is the best one. And then the microphone, which, like I mentioned, has the ability to noise cancel, but you can also adjust how much noise cancellation you want. Then you have your polar pattern, which you can change from private mode to omnidirectional. And lastly, some light settings to adjust the RGB on the monitor. Yes, you heard that right. This is the first Mobius monitor I've seen, at least, that has RGB on the back of it. Now, it isn't anything special, it's just 4 little strips on the corner of each monitor, but what I find humorous is that you have Morse code kind of RGB lighting effects for the words win, go, love, peace, and SOS, which I accidentally left on, and I'm sure my neighbors kept seeing this SOS blinking out my monitor and just assumed that I was in trouble. They probably wanted to call the cops, I don't know. It's just weird that it has it. It's cool. I just don't know why it does, but hey, it's there. And while we're still talking about the OSD, let's talk about the remote. It comes with a little remote, which I think is the coolest thing to control your OSD. Now, I would agree that software OSDs are probably better since you can tie them to specific softwares, but this is what this comes with, and I like this a lot because it also lets you control other things that traditional software OSDs might not let you. So in conclusion, is this MOBIUZ worth $1,100 and should you get one? Now, in terms of if it's worth it, I would say so. And the reason why is because you have something like the LG 32GP950 and the MSI PS321QR-UD, whatever it's called, and those are about $900. But what you get with MOBIUZ monitors isn't just a standard monitor with some OSD features. They always do this thing where, like I say in every MOBIUZ monitor video, they have that, but all the stuff like the speakers, the microphone, the remote, the automatic light sensor, the colorblind features, things like that that other monitors don't traditionally come with. And that's basically what you're paying an extra $200 for. Now, if you don't care about that stuff, cool, you just buy an LG, MSI, or whatever else there is. But if you want all these things, the whole all-in-one package, that's what you get this monitor for. So yeah, basically it's worth the price. And if you care about those things, then yeah, you should get it. The only real drawback that this monitor has, like any other MOBIUZ monitor, is the maximum brightness. I just wish that they had overkill backlights like their Zowie lineup has. Why don't they? I mean, obviously they're different kind of lineups of monitors, but I feel like that would be a turnoff for some people compared to something like the MSI or the LG, because some people just really want that brightness. So yeah, I mean, overall, this has better black frame insertion than any other 4K 144Hz monitor I've seen. The black equalizer is the best so far from what I've tested. It's not dramatically better than the MSI, but it's slightly better, and at least it has color vibrance. It's got all these features. Yeah, I'd say it's worth the price. Whether it's worth it to you is kind of just a personal preference. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you disliked it, leave a dislike. If you want to subscribe, consider subscribing so my subscriber count goes up. Maybe I'll hit 100,000 by the end of the year. Who knows? As always, have a great day every day. Peace.